The story starts with three friends meeting in a coffee shop. All of them were just online friends until now. This is the first time they are meeting in real, and they don't know much about each other. For their backstory, this girl's name is Aoi. She is a middle school girl, but she was bullied in her school to an extreme point. She can't even have her lunch peacefully. So she became a complete outcast in her school, which pushed her to the edge and decided to commit suicide. This boy's name is Rio. He is a great basketball player in his school. But he recently came to know that he is currently in the second stage of cancer and left with only 9 more months to live in his life. He is in the inevitable brink of death. And this boy's name is Tamayo. He is the hero of this film. He has a great talent in painting and drawing, but he was heavily pressured by his mother to focus his concentration on none other than his studies. So that he couldn't even open up to his mother about his passion, which made him completely give up on everything in his life, and almost he is emotionally dead inside and gains suicidal intent. All three of them are just in teenage and also in the brink of death itself. In this kind of situation, they are meeting on online, became friends and meeting in real now. The one thing which connects these three is the mystery of the summer ghost. Actually, the summer ghost is the big talk around their area. There is an abandoned airport in their town where most of people claim to see a young girl as a ghost, along with a way to summon her. She will show her presence when one person fires crackers in that airport at evening time. They got too interested in this topic, they gathered now to investigate the summer ghost to see whether that ghost is real or not. Their real motive is, they just want to confirm a certain thing about the ghost life, since they already decided to die as soon as possible. Now in coffee shop, after introducing themselves to each other, Tamayo now starts to summarize every clue they have gathered about the summer ghost. He even draws a portrait at a time about how she would look like based on the heard. Both Aoi and Rio got really surprised on his talent, but that made Tamayo even sadder. That's when Rio alerts about the firecrackers. They went to a big mall and bought the crackers as much as they can, then set off to that airport. On their way, Tamayo gets a flashback from his school time. He got full marks in every subject of his exams, which made his teacher speak very proudly of him, but still, he feels very empty and went off his home to see his drawing board. Only he himself knows how much he has sacrificed himself in his life. There Rio snaps him from his memories and indicates that they reached the place. It's a big airport which is abandoned for a long time. They landed in that airport at evening and started firing the crackers to see the ghost, but now the time has reached the dark and that summer ghost didn't show up yet. Our friends hit their edge of hope. They almost come to the mind of winding up, and then Rio fires the last cracker. At that time, suddenly something is looking at them from the sky and moving very fast towards them in the air. Our hero also feels that and starts to look at the sky. As it keeps forwarding towards our friends, suddenly a big spark blasts from that cracker Rio is holding, and the next moment, Tamayo sees a girl standing beside them. The summer ghost has arrived. She is just a teenager like our friends, her name is Satu Aini. She has politely introduced herself to our friends and start to speak with them like a human. She is far more kind for ghost. The first thing she asks them is the reason why they wanted to meet a dead person. Our friends are full of surprises on seeing a real ghost, but one by one they start to ask their questions, the reason why they wanted to approach the summer ghost. Aoi starts her question. In her school, she was bullied by a set of gang of other students, that's why she actually wanted to commit suicide anyway. But she also has another fear, which is being bullied by a gang of ghosts even after the death if she becomes a ghost. So she asks Aini whether ghosts also gang up on each other like humans. Aini replies Aoi, with a blank question mark. While she is speaking with Aoi, our boys notice the firecracker, which is still firing and releasing sparkles. That fire should be gone off several minutes ago. And understands that it's something to do with the summer ghost's presence. In that gap, Aini reveals an interesting secret to Aoi in silence. Actually, not everyone can see the summer ghost, unless they are in the arm's reach of death. Just then Aoi realizes that, not only her, but also our boys are also in the brink of the death in some other ways. Then our hero starts to ask his question, but Aini didn't answer to that question too. None of those three really has the desire to live anymore, they want to die as soon as possible and even afraid of the afterlife. Aini understands their mindset with the question she received. Rio didn't ask any question, since his question is already answered on seeing Aini. He just had a doubt whether ghosts exist or not so that he could become a ghost after his death. Finishing a worrying chat with him, Aini gives her farewell in a friendly way and went off, also the last cracker went off. The next day, our friends get into their usual life and also waiting for their death. But still, our friends keep in touch through their online chats. Guys, it's a better thing actually, even if you feel to the lowest of yours, try to speak with your friends or closed ones. That will make you cheer up, at least a little bit. So, in that evening our friends make a conference call to talk about Sato Aini. Aoi is still surprised from previous day, more than enough to think that previous day is not even a reality. It's the effect of seeing a real ghost for the first time. That's when our boys came to know that Aoi is 2 years younger to them. But then they cleared her doubt with a smirk and continues their talk. But in middle of call, our hero suddenly hangs up the call by saying that he has reached his home. Here the real story starts. When he finished the call, he is in that airport with hands full of crackers, leaving those two behind. Tomahyo is planning to see Sato Aani on his own. There, he starts to fire those crackers alone, but this time, Aani showed up on his first cracker itself. She tries to find his motive with a lot of curiosity to meet her again. Actually, our hero has a lot of sufferings and pressure in him since his childhood, that's why he actually wanted to die. But what if those sufferings and worries accompanied him all the way to his afterlife? That's why he keeps approaching Aani to know about the feelings of ghost. He desperately wants to feel that freeness of a ghost after going through all those pressure in his life. But without answering his question, Aani gives a smile and just pulls his hand. Then a miracle happens there, she completely separated Tomahyo's soul from his body. Now our hero is also like Aani, but he is not dead, which made Tomahyo be full of surprises. To add more surprise, she makes him fly along with her by holding his hand, says that Tomahyo is completely free now. Instead of answering his questions with words, she made him feel it with his own experience. As he starts to feel that freedom, she suddenly leaves his hand, and our hero starts to fall from that height all the way to the ground. But once he makes contact with the ground, it turns out to be water body, and Tomahyo directly sinks into the ground. Everything seems completely strange to him in the ghost form. Then Aani starts to teach him to fly as a ghost. She tells him to look deep inside him, the key to fly. She decides to give him the complete privilege of being free by turning him into a form. As Tomahyo goes deep in his mind, the next scene is they are visiting a big painting museum. He starts to unlock his every desire, and Aani also encourages him, starts to spend some quality time with him there. Little by little, our hero finally starts to feel himself. He almost overcomes all his depression and starts to smile again, thanks to Aani. With that complete happiness, both Tomahyo and Aani are now sitting on the top of a big electric pole before returning. In that flow, our hero asks the reason for Aani's suicide, where she reveals the unexpected twist of her death. She really didn't commit suicide as everyone is saying about the summer ghost and gossips. She was actually murdered by an unknown person for utter silly reason. This point is going to give the major turning point in our hero's life. One night, Aani left her home in a fight with her mother, but while crossing a road, a car which ignored the red signal made a crash accident with her. She totally collapsed at that place, which made that car driver become afraid of that situation. In that fear, that mental car driver wrapped her in a suitcase and buried her alive deep in a pit just to escape from an accident case. That suffocation and pressure eventually caused the death to Aani. And she became a ghost and started to wander in that airport as she couldn't find her body where it is exactly buried. And that's also the reason why she couldn't go to her next life. She wants to find her body desperately. Now, as she doesn't have the physical body now, she asks Tomahyo's help, but the next minute she rejects it as it may become a burden to him. But that already triggered a strong spirit in Tomahyo. Then she gives her farewell, and our hero awakens in the airport. The next day breaks, he goes to that painting museum again. His mind keeps thinking about the help Aani asked him. As Tomahyo was in complete void all this time, now he got to have a purpose to keep him engaged and escape from his pressure. So he comes out of the museum with the decision to help Aani, but his mother caught him. Actually, he is supposed to be in his school at that time. Now that his mother caught him, he gets a lot of lecture on his way back. As it gets more and more, at certain point, he couldn't bear that pressure, and he gets out of the car, slashing the door. He starts to walk on his own. Which made him stand on his decision even stronger. At that day's evening, Tomahyo again goes to see Aani with crackers. This time, unexpectedly Rio happens to notice him with the crackers and understands where he is going, but doesn't react much at that time. Here in airport, our hero sets off with Aani to find her body in the ghost form. He searches all the places he could, but no matter how much he searches, he couldn't find it. The summer was about to end, even Aani herself asks Tomahyo to call off the search with that night. But our hero made his mind to find her body at all costs. The next day he calls our friends for help. They are meeting in the same coffee shop. Tomahyo tells them the complete story of Aani and asks their help, but Rio couldn't stand him as he has only 9 more months to live. He completely refuses him and starts to run away from there. Aoi follows him not to leave him all on his own in his stage, but our hero came straight to see Aani. Aoi finds Rio with full of tears on a bridge where Rio completely breaks down thinking about his death. She slowly gets near him and tells about her bitter past and comforts him as much as she can. Here, our hero already took a few turns, but still he couldn't find Aani's body. Now he ran out of crackers. As he almost starts to feel helpless, our friends break in with hands full of crackers. Now Aoi and Rio joins with him in his quest to find Ani's body, and all the four of them starts to search Ani's body by splitting up. They keep trying as hard as they can. Here, Ani feels so happy to have friends on seeing them helping in her worrying situation. Their Aoi comes to Ani with a good news that they found a suitcase under the ground and get Ani to where the suitcase is. There that suitcase is floating in that water-like ground alone. When Ani touched that suitcase, she gets a vibration throughout her soul all of a sudden. That's her body in the suitcase which made her shiver, and Ani also recognizes. But once she found her body, her longest search, here Tamahyo starts to worry. Ani was staying as a ghost to find her body, and now that she has found her body, it's almost time to say the final farewell to her. And hereafter, there is no summer ghost appearance, and our friends and Tamahyo can't meet Ani hereafter. Realizing that, Ani starts to give him the trust he needed. She asks him to have trust in himself and not to get the suicidal intent again. As he keeps looking at Ani, she pushes him into his body, like she is telling him to live further without regrets. Once he wakes up, those three start to run towards the direction where they found Ani's body. It looks like an abandoned subway train station. That car driver buried her in an abandoned place, that's why Ani couldn't find her body all these days. As they almost reached, Rio suddenly becomes exhausted and stops there, but he tells Aoi and Tamahyo to move further. Leaving Rio to get some breathes, Aoi and Tamahyo move forward to the station, where they face a big fence. Aoi helps Tamahyo cross the fence by lifting him up, and she stops there. Now it's everything on Tamahyo. He reaches the exact spot and starts to dig the ground, where he finds a small glimpse of a suitcase. One step further, our friends will find Ani's body and win the task they took, and that confidence will relieve them from their suicidal intent. But all of a sudden Tamahyo gets frozen in the middle. Tamahyo goes into an illusion of him and Ani talking, which brings a twist. Here Aoi shouts at him with all her might, which doesn't work. Up until now, our hero had a strong intention to kill himself in depression. Also, he had worried about Ani leaving, so now Ani asks him to come with her to the afterlife by leaving everything behind. Just a moment ago, she asked him to live a great life in reality, but now she asks him to come with her to the afterlife in that illusion. But without doubting that, our hero almost fell into that trap. That's when he hears Rio's voice inside that illusion. Rio also came to the place, and now he is the one who is pulling Tamahyo from his suicidal intent. There Tamahyo suddenly snaps out of everything and starts to move to the reality where the twist breaks. Actually, that wasn't Ani who asked him to die in that illusion. It's his own suicidal intent, which is the exact feeling he need to face and overcome in this process. Our hero comes to aware of it, pushes himself with all his might to overcome that feeling with all his might. He imagines himself as he is going to draw his masterpiece painting without anyone's interference to fullest of his heart content. And that's it. He completely came out of that illusion and also from his suicidal intent, and here pulled out the suitcase which contains Ani's body. Realizing that, Tamahyo starts to cry out loud to his emotions. In the relief of finding her body finally and seeing Tamahyo relieved from his suicidal intent, Ani hugs him and gives her final farewell. Then the scene cuts, the next day breaks, our friends bring Ani's necklace to her mother to make her realize that Ani is no more. Then several days pass, our friends get into their usual life after coming through these stories. It's like they are reborn in theory life. Tamahyo came out and confronted his mother about his passion and started to live on his own. He makes his masterpiece by drawing a beautiful portrait of Ani herself. Here Aoi, even though her school life didn't change at all, she actually learned to resist the bullying and started to stand for herself. One whole year passed and it's summer season again. Our friends again went to that airport and started to fire crackers. Here is little a twist, those crackers are not for An, but to summon Rio's ghost. Rio was suffering second stage of cancer and had only 9 more months in last year itself, right? Now he is dead from cancer. And now our friends actually gathered here to summon Rio's ghost here. Well, his death, our friend couldn't be near him, so now Rio is giving his proper farewell to Aoi and Tamahyo, and little by little, that cracker is going off the fire, which insists Rio's final moments there. Then Rio disappears from there by asking them take care of themselves. Aoi with some tears starts to walk with Tamahyo to their home. The camera zoomed out covering the whole landscape of that airport. So does the movie end? Actually, people will have to face certain problems in their life, some may be bigger, some may be smaller. But, for any of those problems, suicide never can be a solution. That's the news this movie is saying. I hope you enjoyed this movie, so until the next movie, have fun guys.